So I watched this debate, Matt Dillahunty versus Dr. Howard Resnick, on the subject of epistemology. And, it was funny because I was really looking forward to this debate because I've watched some of Howard Resnick's videos. Not that many, I watched about 3. And, I find him very knowledgeable in the field of epistemology, but in the field of philosophy of religion, I kind of think he's first rate. I listened to his lectures because he had something to say, and I thought he was a really credible and intelligent human being. So, what happened in the debate? Well, about 45 minutes into the debate, it was really too bad, actually, because I was really looking forward to this debate, and at some points, the legitimate Matt Dillahunty was there present, like the normal Matt Dillahunty, who was making really solid arguments and making really intelligent points, did show up to the party every once in a while. But another version of Matt Dillahunty showed up, the atheist experience version of Matt Dillahunty. About 45 minutes into the debate, Matt Dillahunty, kind of out of nowhere, starts getting enraged for no particularly good reason. Now, forgive me, but it played to me like a total sham. Why? Because there was no organic reason for Matt Dillahunty to start getting upset. Yeah, the doctor was getting a little bit long-winded. He wasn't quite specifically addressing the question that Matt wanted to ask, so to be fair to Matt, those were all true. Okay, he was deflecting a little. He was starting to talk a lot and own too much of the conversation and not really address the key thing that Matt kept talking about, was epistemology. How do you know that your experiences, are really of God or really of Krishna consciousness in this particular instance? But he was generally addressing the topic when he started talking a long time. So, honestly, I think Matt Dillahunty, Matt Dillahunty's not 12, okay? He's really not. And there was no organic reason for him to start becoming as upset as he got. What I honestly think he was trying to do was shut down the narrative. He does that on atheist experience all the time. Starts getting, I've lost it with you, long before it's ever clear that the person has ever done anything wrong. Matt Dillahunty's not 12, okay? Yeah, the guy was being a tiny bit exasperating, maybe, to be charitable to Matt Dillahunty. But if he's watching, this was 45 minutes into the debate, and he started getting really pretty enraged. So I don't buy it. It didn't seem legitimate to the circumstances at all. Wasn't organically upset. He wasn't. At least as far as I can tell, there was no legitimate reason for him to be organically upset with the guy. Maybe a little bit exasperated. So if he's 45 minutes into a movie, okay, watching a movie with his girlfriend, and the movie's a little slow and a little boring, does he start going, I can't believe this stupid movie? No, of course not. Why? Because the girlfriend would get mad and throw him out of the apartment. Go, what are you doing? You shut your mouth and get out of here. Because he can act like a normal person even if he's getting a little bit upset. I think he chose not to. Why? Because the guy was starting to get the better of him in arguments. We are there to watch you, Matt Dillahunty, if you are listening. Doubt you are, but if you are listening, we are not there to watch you act like a thug and bully an old man so he can't clearly articulate his points. In those particular part of the exchanges, it was convenient of you to get so upset with him. Why? Because he was starting to get the better of you in the debate. Honestly, he was. He honestly was. There were a couple key points he was making that were better than the points you were making, and they showed more knowledge of the general. No, they weren't quite addressing what you wanted to, but they were still under the banner of philosophy of religion and epistemology. They were pertinent to what was being discussed. No, it wasn't exactly what you wanted to answer. I'll give you that. But you don't get to decide, this is the most important question in the debate, and if you don't answer this, you're deflecting everything I want to know. He should have addressed your one main challenge directly, sure. But he was also indirectly talking about a lot of things that were really relevant to the subject, and they were of interest to me, the casual viewer, and they were very much related to the subject. And you start going, you call me dumb? He wasn't necessarily accusing you of dumb. You were honestly being dumb in the moment. You started to sense that you were dealing with somebody who wasn't necessarily a Dumbo apologist and knows a lot more about the subject than you. A lot more about the subject than you do. And he shouldn't. Why? Because you are the A-list debater in the atheist community. You are generally considered the best debater in their community. You should be reading a wide variety of material of the stuff he is talking about. So he should not know more than you do. That's to your discredit that he does. Honestly, it is. And he started getting the better of you in that exchange. We're not there to see you shut an old man down. We're not there to see you bully an old man. We are there to see you win by the quality of your argumentation. If you can't do that, then be quiet and learn from him. And you, in that particular exchange, you couldn't do it. Why? Because he had the better arguments. The argument he was generally making, and this is what I pieced together from the things that you allowed him to say. Not he was allowed to clearly articulate, but the argument he was generally making was on point. And you need to have a substantive rebuttal for what he was trying to present, not just shut him down so he can't clearly articulate it. Because that's what you were trying to do. Honestly, that's what he was trying to do. He was being a bully and a thug. He instead of being Matt Dillahunty, let me win by argumentation, the quality of my intellect, the quality of my challenges, he was being the old Schuyler Fiction. Let me try to shut him down. I swear to God he was. And it was a really bad look, dude. It was really, because it's really not what I was there to see. I'm not there to see you act like a 16-year-old thug. I'm really not. Nobody is. And if you had pulled that type of a stunt when you were debating somebody where it was a huge audience and it was of importance to your reputation, the reputation of the atheist community, you would have really blown it. If you had pulled that when you were talking to Jordan Peterson, nobody would ever let you live that down. Nobody. If you'd done that a little bit more in this debate, your reputation would have suffered. Now, you do that in the atheist experience all the time. Shut people down, don't let them talk, pretend they're wearing you out. Pretend, the keyword pretend they're wearing you out. There's no legitimate way that he was wearing you out. Again, you're not 12. So you could have been a little bit more patient. It wasn't organic to what he was doing at all. If he was being exasperating, it was minorly exasperating. Be more like Shannon. I swear to God, be more like Shannon. On some level, you've got to know that this is true. If that were watched by 7 million people and that was a really important debate, like a Jordan Peterson debate, you would have lost. And you would have lost based on behavior. Okay? People would have gotten really upset with you if you started just pushing Jordan Peterson around. And you were basically just pushing around an old man. Not a good look, dude. You want people to think atheists are the good guys, correct? Okay. The good guys don't push around old men. They don't. They don't bully old men. Again, be like Shannon. On some level, you do this on the atheist experience all the time. But even on the atheist experience, first of all, it's a different environment. That is red meat for your fan base. Your partisan actors watch that and they go, woo, get him, Matt. Okay, this was equal people, half the people from his squad. So nobody in the middle was cheering you on and go, yeah, bully the old man. Listen to the old man and win by the quality of your argumentation. Don't try to inauthentically shut him down. And the defeaters you were bringing to the table in that particular part of the exchange were inauthentic defeaters. Astonishingly weak argumentation, and somewhere deep down inside of yourself you were aware of that, and you were trying to cover it up by bellowing. Bellowing in a way that was completely inauthentic to what was actually what was going on in the exchange. That guy wasn't wearing you out. There's no way. Why? Because all he was doing was just being a little bit too talkative. Talking a little too much. And not quite getting to the point. Okay, that's not, you don't have the right in a debate. You do that stuff on the atheist experience all the time. It's your audience on the atheist experience, and you realize even there, it's not going to play well in the long term. If you atheists, all of you, if you guys want to be ready for prime time, this is not negotiable, guys. It means you've got to be the good guy in the exchange. Some of this is politics, some of this is politics. And if uncommitted people are watching that, and they're smart uncommitted people, they'll go, all Matt Dillahunty's doing is being a thug. He has to be more like Shannon. It's not negotiable. It's not negotiable. Shannon would never do that. That's why you hired her for the atheist experience. Why? She'd never do that. But reality check. If she did do that, nobody would like her. Everyone likes Shannon because she's nice and would never, ever, ever do that. But if she did start like yelling at an old woman, people wouldn't like her anymore. They'd be like, what's Shannon yelling at that old woman for? Why Shannon's acting like a bitch? That's what they'd say, dude. It's what they'd say. You were trying to plug in an inauthentic defeater. And he had a really good counterpoints that were not allowed to be articulated in a debate. That is unacceptable. I could figure out what he was trying to say, but you didn't let him say it. Unacceptable. It's not that acceptable in the atheist experience either, but nobody's going to call. You guys should stop him from doing that in the atheist experience too. Why? Because it's making him weaker. It's making him weaker. It's not in his best interest. That's the best debater in your community. If he starts falling apart and becoming Aaron Ra, you guys got nothing. There's nobody else. There's nobody else. Graham Oppie is a brilliant man, but nobody can understand what he's talking about. I swear to God, nobody watches the debates because they don't understand what the hell he's saying. They watch 2 hours of him debating like Josh Rasmussen. Like, what on earth are these two guys talking about? Nobody knows. So he's never going to become the popular atheist YouTuber, and everyone's going to become atheist because of him. Matt Dillahunty was your top gun. And if he starts becoming, you know, the old Schuyler fiction, it's not going to be a good look for your entire community. So it's in your best interest, atheists, if you care about how atheism plays to the public at large. That's your top gun. Tell him to stop doing that. Why? Because it's not a good look for him. Makes him look like a thug and an idiot. And that guy was making solid points. And he wasn't calling you stupid, Matt. You were being stupid. So, getting back to the substance. Inauthentic defeater number 1. It's not negotiable, guys. All of you in the atheist community got to be like Shannon. It's not negotiable. Why? Because that's the only way you'll be ready for prime time. When you're on a big, huge debate and there are 10 million people watching, if he acted like that, he would actually ruin the moment for atheists. Do you understand? If he did that with Jordan Peterson, you have 300,000 people on his ass for the next 2.5 years. He didn't do that with Jordan. I've never seen him do that in a real debate. Does it on the Atheist Experience all the time. 5 times a Sunday, almost every call. But I've never seen him do it in a real debate. It's the first time he's ever done it in a real debate. So you've got to get on his case about it and start holding him accountable. Matt Dillahunty, you may have real friends. Your real friend told you shouldn't have done that. Everybody else is a sycophant. Be careful of everybody who told you nailed it, because you didn't nail it. You didn't. You were pushing around an old man. That's a basic paradigm of reality. It's not a good look for you or the atheist community. In a debate that I was going to watch you win by the quality of your argumentation. I'm not there to see you act like a 16-year-old thug. Nobody is. Nobody cares who's the toughest guy between you and Dr. Howard Resnick. Okay, you're the toughest guy. It's not what I'm there to see. I don't care who the toughest guy is. Schuyler, you get why I was on your case about this? Maybe you learned it from him. You know, Schuyler 2.0 is a real thing, Schuyler. Keep Schuyler 2.0. Why? Because it's non-negotiable. Nobody wants to see a tough guy clown in a debate. It's not what we're there to see. It's not a schoolyard, okay? I know who's tougher, Matt Dillahunty or Dr. Howard Resnick. I know who would win a fight. I'm not there to see that. Now, getting back to the substance of the argumentation itself. In those 2 exchanges where you shut down, he was getting the better of you. So, first inauthentic defeater you tried to run. And this is imbecile basic binary thinking problem a la Aaron Ra. Matter of fact, it's the same talking point as Aaron Ra. Aaron Ra ran the same thing on Ariuna. There's little Johnny in the field somewhere, little Johnny in Oklahoma somewhere, and he thinks you're going to hell. That cancels out your ontology, that cancels out your, doesn't do anything of the sort. And he had 2 really good counter arguments that you did not let him speak. So, the first thing he tried to tell you, there are a lot of things under the banner. There are a lot of things that fall under, oh my God, my voice. He said to you, 1, there are a lot of things that fall under the banner of science. For example, young Earth creation. He said, young Earth creation isn't science, it's pseudoscience. Exactly the point he was trying to make. When it comes to science and everything that falls under the heading of science, you get to rightfully say that young Earth creationism is pseudoscience, but by the same token, Sam Harris can be this dumb too. Sam Harris can be this dumb too. It's really imbecile and binary thinking. Once you deconvert from religion, it's generally to atheists, okay? A lot of you deconverted from religion because it was too dogmatic and too ideologically driven, and they were too binary in their thinking. Good, bad, black, white, up, down. Do not use the same imbecile binary thinking when you are talking about a complex subject like religion. So then you won't use these utterly fallacious talking points and think you own somebody when you didn't. You just didn't understand clearly what time it is. So, his inauthentic defeater number 1. Little Johnny in Tulsa, Oklahoma, thinks you're going to hell, Dr. Resnick. Therefore, it cancels everything out. No, it doesn't work like that. And what he tried, first thing he tried to clearly articulate, which you didn't let him say, was that you there are a lot of things that fall under the banner of science. For example, young earth creationism. You said young earth creation is pseudoscience, not science. Exactly the point he was trying to make. So you rightfully get to label something pseudoscience, but then by the same time you will turn around and tell him, little Johnny, he'll tell you little Johnny's pseudo-religion. Little Johnny fundamentalist who thinks everybody's going to burn is pseudo-religion. I'm pretty sure that's what he was trying to say. And furthermore, you will probably go, as Sam Harris will, religion is, there are people who crash into buildings inspired by their religion. And he will tell you straight up, this guy Howard Resnick will tell you straight up, that's not religion, that's pseudo-religion. Then you'll go, how do you know it's pseudo-religion? He was trying to explain the criteria of that. There is a body of experts, just like in any other discipline, a body of generally accepted experts who have come to some type of rough consensus as to what constitutes true religion versus pseudo-religion. And there may even be clearly articulated criteria for the difference. That's what he was trying to say. And you didn't let him say it. And that's a really good argument. And you weren't letting him articulate it. I am there to see the quality of the argumentation. If somebody has the better point, this is why I don't care who wins debates, Skylar Fiction. Why? Because I don't want to see people inauthentically win a debate that's supposed to be a contest of ideas. If somebody has the better ideas and the better points, I want the person who is not winning to yield. And Matt Dillahunty sometimes has the integrity to do that. That's a basic paradigm of integrity. Sometimes Matt Dillahunty does that and has integrity. I've seen him do it in the past. I've seen him do it in the past. When somebody has giving better arguments, Matt Dillahunty will step back and just listen and not try and win by thuggery. Nobody's there to see thuggery. So his argument was, there is a general consensus amongst the experts. Now, I don't know for a fact who he considers the experts, but I can take a wild guess. Okay? Jordan Peterson, Joseph Campbell, Karen Armstrong, Houston Smith, Iliada, Jung, William James. I bet you $1,000 he's well versed in everything that they have written. And atheists, non-negotiable. All of you should be reading those people. All of you. Why? Because if you care what's true, and you care about religion, and you don't just want to make blanket dumb statements a la Aaron Ra out of ignorance, then you should be doing that. It's not negotiable. You should have genuine curiosity about religion. There's only one person who's an agnostic who I'm pretty sure will read all those books, and that's Nathan Ormond. That's it. The rest of you probably won't. You just click on, this is what Ken Hovind says and look how it's dumb. Okay, that gets old after a while. Or so we move up the food chain a little. Here's what here's what middle-hanging fruit says, and this is why it's wrong. Okay, that gets old after a while too. You got to go to the top of the top, the creme de la creme, and see what they say. When I first started doing this, I went right to Matt Dillahunty, Scott Clifton, Alex Malpass, and Oppie, Dr. Graham Oppie. Those are the people I started with. The best of the best. Yes, Scott, best of the best. He's probably not listening. Yeah, first-rate intellect. First-rate intellects, all four of them. Okay, I went to the best arguments in the community. Not to like little Dumbo with his YouTube channel and started telling how he's wrong. That's easy to do, guys. Now, what he was trying to say is that those experts have some form of a rough consensus on what constitutes true religion. It's a rough consensus. It is an epistemology. It is philosophy of religion. Now, you can dispute that. And I'm sure you will have good counter-arguments for that. But you are shutting down that narrative from being articulated clearly. Then the other thing about little Johnny, and this is really important that atheists understand this, guys. What little Johnny believes is of no consequence to nobody anywhere ever. Why? As Matt Dillahunty articulated clearly later in the debate, belief and ontology don't have anything to do with each other. So little Johnny believes that the earth is oblong and made out of green cheese. This is an example. Little Johnny believes that the earth is oblong and made out of green cheese, right? Another little Johnny in Florida believes that the earth is flat and made out of Swiss cheese. And Dr. Howard Resnick believes that the earth is round and made out of, what's the earth made out of? Geological materials. Rocks? I'm not sure. Geological materials. Okay? The dumbest type of imbecile, atheist, binary thinking, can't all be right, but you can all be wrong. That's really, it's not a binary choice, guys. It's not an either or. One person can be right. There's a lot of different options other than just you can't all be right, you can't all be wrong. Dumb, binary thinking, imbecile thinking. That's the type of stuff Aaron Roth does all the time. Little Johnny thinks you're going to hell, Ariuna. He said the same stupid thing. It's laughably stupid. Who cares what little Johnny thinks? First of all, we don't take him seriously. Nor should you. Just like you don't take the young earth creationists seriously as a scientist. Nor should we. Sorry, young earth creationists, nobody takes it seriously. All right, what do you mean, Greg? Shut up. All right, never mind. So, Dumbo binary thinking. There are other possibilities. Then they can all be right. They can't all be right, but they can all be wrong. Guys got to use critical thinking. Swear to God, use it all the time. Dr. Resnick can be right, and the rest of them can be wrong. Or they can all be wrong. Or they can all be batting, or they can all be almost right. Or they can be batting around something that is close to right. The point is, you get a variety of experts on the subject of philosophy of religion. And if you read their books, Matt, you would agree with a lot of what they had to say. You would part ways with them sometimes, as you did with Jordan Peterson. Karen Armstrong, you'd like her. Honestly, you'd like her. Every atheist would like her. Because a lot of the key points that she addresses are a lot of your key things that you don't like about religion. And these are generally considered the experts in philosophy of religion or comparative religion. And there's a rough consensus amongst them about what constitutes true religion. That's what he was trying to say. And furthermore, ontology and belief are irrelevant to each other. So what little Johnny believes, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Now, getting back to the subject at hand. Then you guys went on. Okay, the only thing I will say in your favor is that your main objection was correct. The main objection of Matt Dillahunty was right. There was a question he kept asking is, how do we have the epistemology for your particular set of beliefs? Now, he did articulate an answer, Matt Dillahunty, if you were listening and read between the lines. He didn't clearly spell it out, but it looks something like this. If you wanted to know if Krishna consciousness is true, okay, he has a school, the Howard Resnick School of Krishna Consciousness. And there's all these forms of disciplines and rituals that you would participate in as per his instructions. So, the operating theory is, he is telling you that when he does his religious whatever he does, he is able to contact some form of a transcendent other, okay, and he calls that transcendent other Lord Krishna. Okay, that's the claim he's making. We're pretty straightforward on that. Matt Dillahunty just starts asking, how do we know that your methodology works? And he was giving actual answers. No, not quite as robust as empirical verification a la Matt Dillahunty, but it was a form of empirical verification. So he would say, someone goes and signs up for Krishna Consciousness School, the guy gives them a series of rituals to perform, wake up in the morning and you sing your Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, peace, flowers, freedom, happiness. It's from Hair. I actually really like that song. Hare Krishna from Hair. So he has a series of rituals, chants, readings, breathing exercises, I guess, yoga type exercises that you perform over a period of time. And those rituals and those chants and those specific instructions, it's a really specific methodology. It really is. It's a school. And he was trying to tell you millions of people have found it to be a pathway to truth over the centuries. The only way you, Matt Dillahunty, could know for sure if it's in fact true, okay, is to follow the rituals as per his instructions. It's non-negotiable. Why? Because he is telling you this experience, if you participate in it to this degree, with this amount of intensity and commitment, will produce these results in you. That's what he's claiming. And he says there's evidence to back it up because, 78% of the people who sign up for Krishna consciousness. And then he said that some of these people are not really, Krishna, they don't really want Krishna consciousness. They aren't real Hare Krishnas. There's no true Hare Krishna, Matt. Yeah, I know. It's tough all over, Matt. There's no true Hare Krishna. Now, then you started saying, what is an objective standard of verification? Fair enough question. But it gave you, again, a real answer that you just tried to throw shade on. He said you were just trying to throw jabs. You were. You were. You were just trying to box for no particularly good reason. Nobody's there to see you win inauthentically. I'm not. Nor your fans are. They shouldn't be. Why? Because you don't gain anything. If you're just boxing, then sometimes you are scoring points inauthentically. The points have to be legitimate quality of your argumentation. Normally you know this in a debate like this. Normally you're excellent. This one you were not very good. I would give you a C. But sometimes the old Matt Dillahunty would show up for a couple of exchanges. But the new atheist experience Matt Dillahunty, would show up too often. So you started splitting hairs with him, and he said semantics. You said semantics is totally valid. Not in that context. You were splitting hairs. You were splitting hairs. He said, here's an objective standard of verification. We see that someone will have a quality more saintliness. Okay? Then you literally pretended like saintly means nothing. Saintly is so vague, nobody can understand what that possibly means. That's the most vaguest of things. No, it's really not. There's a standard definition of saintliness that most reasonable people would agree on. And if you want to actually chisel it out so that there's a real epistemology to it, there are certain qualities that people with generally intelligent, high-minded people who care about ethics and care about what's true would reasonably agree this constitutes a quality of saintliness. And if you really want to get fancy about it, I'm sure we could even put that into diagnostic criteria of a saintly human being. So, for example, you are perfectly capable of understanding that all of us, atheist, Jew, miscellaneous, would agree that Martin Luther King Jr. embodies this ethereal quality. In other words, you were trying to say that saintliness is such an ethereal quality, it's so vague nobody can ever qualify it. That's not true. We can chisel it out to a specific we can chisel it down to, what am I trying to say? It's not true. It's not so vague and ethereal that nobody can define it ever. We can give it a very specific definition that we all agree on, and then we can chisel that down to certain criteria, and we could even test to see if those are diagnostic criteria. We do with something like psychopathology, right? There are diagnostic criteria of a psychopath. Bet you $1,000 somebody's already run studies on this, qualities of saintliness, and they have some form of rough consensus on what constitutes true saintliness as per diagnostic criteria. So in other words, you, Matt Dillahunty, any sane, reasonable person worth talking to who cares what's true would agree that Martin Luther King Jr., whatever the quality of saintliness is, Martin Luther King Jr. embodies it more than, say, Kent Hovind. So then we can go, okay, why? And then we can take one example of his character attributes that are really present in him. So, for example, patience. Ding, ding, ding. Patience. Gee, what a weird example, Greg. Yeah, patience. That would constitute a saintly characteristic according to any reasonable, sane person worth talking to. So we can say that Shannon, for example, embodies the quality of patience more than you. We can diagnose that, and we can even test for it. If you put someone who's kind of a tiring old man in front of Shannon, it would take X amount of hours before she started raising her voice above a certain decibel. Probably take Shannon 2.5 hours before she started becoming impatient. With Dr. Resnick, she would never get impatient. Why? Because he's actually a really nice, really intelligent human being. So there was no excuse. But with Dr. Resnick, there would be a certain period of time we could test how much more patient Shannon is than Matt. We could actually diagnose it out. We could map it out. We really could. And that's what he's trying to talk about. Science used to ignore these kind of fuzzy categories. Now science is chiseling down a means of empirical verification for these fuzzy categories. And that's what I mean when I say science is on my side. He's talking about a science of spirituality. There is actually one being chiseled out. If you guys don't believe me, John Vervaeke has been on YouTube for the last 3 years. Okay, and I brought him up a lot. And he is a neuroscientist, and all of the stuff that this guy was talking about, John Vervaeke would agree with wholeheartedly, almost completely, agree with almost every sentence out of this guy's mouth. And that's exactly what he is trying to do. Mix the soft ideas of spirituality. This is a wisdom technique with actual measurable scientific qualifications and criteria. And he is being largely successful. There is a path for both of these things to meet. There is. There is. And any intelligent person who cares about this subject should already know that. That's my point. John Vervaeke is on YouTube. I found out about him, so should every atheist. You guys should know who Karen Armstrong is and should have already been reading her. You guys should know who William James is and should already have been reading him. Why? Because they are generally considered really, really important experts on this particular subject. And this subject is your bread and butter. That's why. It's not negotiable. Because if you don't, the religion tards, we're going to start kicking your ass. I swear to God we are. If this guy were 20 years younger, he would have kicked Mac Dillahunty's ass. I swear to God, he would have. Why? Because he knew more about the subject generally than Matt Dillahunty did. He really did. He really did. I really think that's why Matt Dillahunty started bellowing. I don't see any reason why Matt Dillahunty organically lost his patience with the guy. Why? It's not that tiring. It's really not. He was really pretty interesting. Yeah, a little long-winded. He's a professor. So he's used to everybody listening because their grade depends on them hearing everything he has to say. So all college professors have this tendency. Jordan Peterson does this too. They just talk and talk and keep talking and keep talking and keep talking. Why? Because they're used to everybody hanging on their every word because people are being graded on listening to them. I think he's a college professor. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just guessing. Why? Because it's really expansive. And college professors tend to be, Randall Rouser's like this too. Ask him a subject and he starts going on and on and on and on and on. And you're like, okay, that's enough now. All college professors do that. Why? Because they can get away with it. Nobody's holding them to account. If one of his students goes, okay, that's enough there, Grandpa, we get it. That person would get a D. So they don't do it. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah, it really is. So there is a diagnostic criteria, generally set, a generally easy to agree upon set of attributes that we would say constitute saintliness. One of which would be, for example, patience. Some of the stuff that he was saying was actual epistemology, Matt. It was just not quite as robust as what science is used to. But that's where they are in the process. Okay? So he said if somebody follows the instructions of his Krishna consciousness training program, they are going to become more saintly. That's a claim he makes. That is something we can test for and we can examine. Okay, that's not probably robust enough for you, but that is an answer. That is an answer. So he wasn't not answering your question, because I got all of that from what he said. I did. So he wasn't not answering your question. And we can legitimately test. Shannon, how long would it take? We can ask questions. How you test for empirical stuff is you ask the right question and then see what happens. So we could go, how saintly is Shannon? How patient is Shannon? And put an annoying person with Shannon and see how long before she starts raising her voice. Right? It's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. And then we could have different types of annoying people. And we can see, well, Shannon tends to be less saintly with, for example, a Darth Dawkins annoying person than she is with like a kindly old man who just talks too much. This was a kindly old man who was really, really, really sharp, by the way, really intelligent. The stuff he was saying was really intelligent, dude, and really well thought out. I've listened to just his lectures where he's just bloviating at will, and he's worth hearing even when he's bloviating. So I don't buy it that he's bloviating too much. That's not no Kent Hovind. That's an extremely intelligent, well-qualified human being who has a lot to say on this particular subject. That ain't no Kent Hovind. You give him the floor when he talks. Why? Because he's worth hearing, trust me. Trust me, he's worth hearing. You do lectures too. 2-hour lectures sometimes too. His are better than yours. Not by much. His are okay. His are really good and really informative. And they bring a lot to the table. Just so you guys know. If you're keeping score. Matt Dillahunty's lectures are okay. He does a thing on humanism, something like that. They're okay. His are really good. Howard Resnick's. So, getting back to the issue at hand. Yeah, I'm running out of time. I know. You're bloviating too, Greg. Right. Didn't ask. It's my video. You don't like it? Turn the cat videos. My video, guys. All right, I'll wrap it up. Disappointing. Every once in a while, the real Matt Dillahunty showed up at the table and tried to win by the quality of his argumentation. But there was way too much sloppiness. Way too much. I don't really have the good, intelligent, well-thought-out comeback. Why? Because I think some of the stuff he was introducing was new to Matt Dillahunty. Matt Dillahunty owns Christians really easily. And he was probably expecting to own this guy and getting frustrated by the fact that he couldn't clearly beat him. Why? Because he doesn't really know what this guy's talking about. And he should. He should. Why? Because this is the bread and butter of what you guys are dealing with. Religious pluralism, philosophy of religion. This is the exact stuff that you guys are trying to become experts on. So you should know everything that he said. Matt Dillahunty didn't. It's not acceptable. And it's not acceptable, I mean, that's whatever. That's a critique of him generally. But it's not acceptable to be in a debate and try to win by, bellowing like a 14-year-old. It's not. It's not at all. I'm not there to watch you push him around. Nobody is. You win by the quality of your argumentation. And I think you were struggling to do that. You probably could have, because you very rarely lose, because the quality of your argumentation is, generally speaking, excellent, first rate, okay? But maybe the atheist experience is starting to, maybe if the atheist experience is starting to become, bad practice. You're getting into bad habits. Because you do it on the atheist experience all the time. Shut people down, don't let them finish, hang up on them, bellow, get impatient. And maybe, I've never seen you do it in a real debate. This is the first time you did it in a real debate. It's not appropriate to the context. It's really not. It's really not. Nobody's there to see you manhandle someone inappropriately, inauthentically defeat. We're there to see you win by the quality of your argumentation and the quality of your argumentation alone. If you don't have the better argument, you should be quiet and listen. And I'm pretty sure you would agree to that in any context. Maybe you can't do it in public because it's public debate. But in general, I'm pretty sure you'd agree with that because generally speaking, you do have integrity. I do respect your integrity and I think you have it. And I'll give you a couple points. Yes, he was kind of doing your logical policy here. He was kind of running a bit of a scam on you that most Christians do. I could prove it to you and you just don't want to believe and your philosophy doesn't allow you to believe anything. He was kind of doing a little bit of that. But that's kind of organic to what you guys are about. He has a different philosophy of life than you do. And it needs to be authentically heard and listened to and then challenged appropriately. Not, I'll make another video on this. And I'll try to elucidate further from Matt's point of view. Because some of the things some of his objections were legitimate. It's just, when he started acting like Aaron Ra, it threw the whole thing off. And it threw off the guy's thought process. That's the problem when you act like Aaron Ra. It's not just an illegitimate tactic. You are actually starting to make the person not think clearly, so they're not bringing their best arguments to the table. So you can't legitimately say you won. Why? Because it's not about who could beat, who's the bigger, more aggressive, tough guy. We both know that it'd be you. All of us know it'd be you. And when you start bellowing, he starts not making his points as clearly. So, I'll make another video. Why? I don't know. It was an interesting debate. I think you should check it out. That is all for now, kids. Mass has ended. Go in peace. Amen.